Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today is a bit of a special video because I will bring you guys in on something that happened not too long ago actually. But you guys will remember I made a video where I talked about the map pool, how I wish the map pool was a bit different and that there could be a lot more risk taken and variation included in the map pool. Now what happened since then is that I was approached by Forgotten Empires and they pretty much told me, hey Viper, we're preparing the map pool for the coming weekend and we would like to give you the opportunity to draft the list with us. So, essentially, they gave me a list of 141 maps. Just to be clear, first of all, you can see the ranked map pool vote is ending in 1 day and 8 hours, so it will be done after the weekend, so get your votes in now. Anyway, they gave me a list of, to be exact, 141 maps. That's a lot of maps. But the maps were pretty much all these ones. Every single map that was in the game that you will have by default. And also, real world maps. I could have picked Bohemia. I could have picked China, you know. I could have picked Earth. I did actually look into this a little bit and I made a few generations of these types of maps. And then I realized this is not going to be good for competitive gameplay. So let's not put that into the ranked map pool. But yeah, more details. Essentially, they told me you pick for 1-1. You get to, well, in this case, initially was suggest. So I suggested 4 dev maps, which would be like the 4 maps that will go in no matter what. And then 9 maps that will be voted for, essentially, for only 1. For team games, it was 6 dev maps and 9 maps to be voted for. So that's essentially what I got to work with. So it's not exactly to my wish, right? I wanted to bring in maps like El Dorado, all these like crazy maps that we had in tournaments over the last couple of years. But yeah, I was restricted to maps within the game. Now, I'm gonna bring you through my choices and tell you a bit why I went for this, let's say this, like the amount of maps of this certain type and this genre and this playstyle wise, if you get what I mean. You know, the variation, the balance, right? Anyway, let's do it. Let's look at my map pool choices. So again, 4 maps 1-1 that will go into the game no matter what. I went fairly safe there. They also suggested to me that like Arabia, Arena, Mega Random are the most common maps in 1-1. So they are probably the ones that should be there, which I agree with. I think Arabia always should be in the map pool. I think Arena should always be there, Mega Random as well. And then I was like, okay, we have a let's say balance. I don't think Arabia necessarily counts as like an open map, open aggressive map anymore. It's more of a balanced, fairly dynamic map still. But yeah, Arabia has to be there. Arena, classic map, closed, fast cast, a lot of strategic variety in castlage, options for fast imp and so forth. And then Mega Random, of course, can be anything. So I felt like those should be there. And then it was like, we don't actually have a water map right now. So I'm thinking, what are the water maps that are not necessarily stale and pure water map? Because I think most people don't like pure water map, right? I think a lot of people don't mind water map, but there needs to be more to it, right? So for me, migration was then the choice. I think migration has a lot of depth when it comes to the transition, right? You have the transition to the middle. First of all, like you go to feudal age, castle age, whatever your choice is. Strategic options there as well. But it's that whole transition phase where you go to the middle. How much do you focus on the middle? How much do you emphasize? Do you transport 15, 20, 25, 30 vills, the whole? Do you do the full migration? Or do you just send 3-4 vills and start a new colony on the middle, right? There's a lot of differences in terms of how you can approach migration strategically, civ-wise, and just how you play it. So I felt like it was a good water map to have in there. So that's my rationale for why I picked migration as, in quotes, the water map. Now that takes us to the maps where you can vote, right? Again, I put quite a bit of time and effort into this, but again, I'll explain my choices once again. I'll do the same way I did explain for the devs, where I explained to them why I wanted those maps. So again, we look here. Enclosed is like, for me, it's like a version of Hideout with more possibilities, essentially. There's potential for aggression on the sides, so it's a lot more dynamic than Hideout necessarily is, where you start with palisade walls. Now, you can have aggression in Hideout as well, but in Enclosed, you're way earlier forced outside of your enclosement to take resources. So I thought Enclosed was a nice, fairly balanced map, which has a bunch of different variety in terms of how you can play it. So Haboob, obviously super open, super aggressive map. We have seen it a lot in TCI as well now recently. So I felt like it was a map we want to have in there. Short rush distance, very aggressive. that gives us like Haboob and Enclosed are a little bit on a different spectrum, right? So I felt it was fair to like mix in. To explain my logical thinking as well as I wanted to have like options on the whole spectrum, from open to aggressive to balanced, semi-closed, semi-open, etc. And you'll see that along as we go. Khauassan. In my opinion, Khauassan is one of the best maps you have in Age of Empires. There are so many good, so many options and ways to play this, right? Because you start, keep in mind this is 1v1 we're talking right now. You will essentially have 2 pawns between you. And you can play it so many different ways. You can be in the same pawn, you can be in the separate pawn, you can focus on the middle hill with the berries. In my opinion, it's just one of the most strategically, like one of the maps with the most strategic depth and variety that is out there. So I thought Khauassan was an amazing pick as a sort of hybrid, semi-open. I mean, you can play this anyway. You can ignore the water, ignore the middle. You can wall up, go fast castle. You can go unique units. You can play forward aggression. You can just play only land. There's so many ways to play Khauassan, and I don't think there are many bad approaches on Khauassan as well. So I thought it was a great map to sneak in there. Lowland was essentially my idea of, okay, we know these maps like Acropolis, Golden Pit, where it's like you go down to the middle for resources and expanding. But Lowland has a little bit more of a balanced approach to that, right? There's still high ground around the whole map. And then in the middle, there will still be like, you go into the pit where you find extra gold, extra stone. But the option is still there to push from the sides, to be aggressive and play on the sides, on the high ground. So, and the low ground isn't that steep, right? And it's not like Acropolis where you feel like you have to climb a mountain to get to the high ground. So yeah, for me, this is more of a like a, let's say Acropolis, Arabia hybrid. So it's a map I thought would be a good pick. I'm looking at the percentages already. Enclosed, Haboob, and Khauassan are doing pretty well. Lowland, not so good so far. Moraz, only 5%. Moraz, I wanted one map as well that was more like center-oriented when it comes to not gold. Because I personally am not a big fan of the gold middle control maps. Because I feel like they're extremely snowbally. Now, this is very snowbally as well, don't get me wrong. But food snowball is a little bit less dangerous than gold snowball, because gold snowball is more like long term as well, where it's just like if you don't get access to gold, you're just done. If you don't get access to the shorefish, you can still build farms, you know. Moraz doesn't seem to be very popular though, but you guys know Moraz. Lots of shorefish in the middle. You'll be early, heavy aggression. So Nomad, I felt like we could not give Nomad as an option to vote for. Still one of the most popular maps in 1v1 as well. And when I looked at the options they have for like nomadic starts, because I wanted one nomad map in there to be voted for. It was like African Clearing, you have these Mountain Pass, these types of maps, and I'm like, probably Nomad is still the best Nomad map from the Nomad options. So that's why I went for Nomad. And I was like, okay, since Migration isn't necessarily pure water map, I was like, let's give them another option to vote for water maps in case they want another water map. Northern Isles as well is a water map, but there's a lot more chances to land because you start with a transport. So I felt like adding that dynamic to a water map if they want to force another water map into the map pool. Northern Isles is probably the best option now at the moment. I think it's probably the best water map we have, in quotes, water map, because even this is heavily based on landings as well now, even though water still normally decides a lot in this type of map. And then we had Seize the Mountain. For me, Seize the Mountain is like it's a very open map, very aggressive. Obviously, you cannot build anything. You can build docks, but you cannot build any walls, for example, along the shallows around the whole map, right? So you will eventually be forced to transition to the middle. You don't have to right away. You don't even have to until you're castle age, pretty much. But the options are there, right? And it encourages a lot of different ways to play as well. Where, yeah, the emphasis is pretty much that eventually you have to migrate to the middle. And, you know, again, I am a fan of maps that give a lot of strategic options, and I think Seize the Mountain is one of them. And I have a lot of fond memories from Seize the Mountain in tournaments as well. So, yeah. And then Wade. We saw Wade in TCI lately. We have seen it in the Red Bull tournaments. It's one of those maps that can also be played in many different ways. There is encouragement because of like there are elephants along the middle and there are berries along the sides with hunt. So it's like you're encouraged to go to the sides or go to the middle and grab that food, but you don't have to, right? So you can play it differently. It's one of those semi-open maps where you can definitely play it a bit different. But yeah, again, keep in mind, I was limited to the maps within the game. So while I would have loved to even go further in terms of my choices and be like a little bit more wild, I still feel like I ended up on a fairly balanced 1v1 map voting pool. Now I know we've seen a fair few of these maps as well in the map pool before, but I don't think we have seen them enough, if that makes sense. And again, I still really want more maps to be an option. And I also want, well, we can get to that later. Anyway, let's go to the team version. So for team games, again, they wanted 6 maps chosen as dev picks. They said Arabia, Arena. Actually, let me confirm exactly what they said. For team games, Arabia, Arena, Black Forest, and Nomad are more or less permanent maps because they're so popular amongst the team game community. So I was like, that's fine. So Arabia, Arena, Black Forest, and Nomad, sure. Mega Random, I feel like, should always be a part of it, just to give people that option to go wild. And then it was, again, what water map in team games can be very interesting? Migration, because, again, the whole transition to land. I actually think Migration is even better in team games than in 1v1. Because usually we have these crazy games where the flanks will be fighting and trying to hold water. And then the pockets can do a lot of crazy strategies. You can do like triple, quadruple, dock fish boom and slinging. You can go landing in the middle, play knights. You can land in the middle, play unique units. And eventually it translates to everyone having to fight the middle while also maintaining the water. And I think Migration is a really cool map. Probably not given enough credit or fun enough, like people don't give it enough credit for how many good games have been provided by Migration throughout the years. Take Nations Cup, for example. The most recent Nation Cup in team games. There was some amazing games there. So, team random map pool. Let me just go over here so I can see the reasons I gave as well. So, Coastal is a map I think as well for team games. Is very good. There will be water around for the most part, where it gives you the option to play water. But then I love when you give the option, right? Because you can be flank, and it's like you'll have a pocket that makes a dock. As a flank then, do you want to defend your pocket's fish so he can get a better cast age, better scout play, whatever? Or do you do land aggression yourself and the pocket has to defend the water? Again, the strategic depth and variety you get through Coastal, I think is very cool. And I think it's a good choice for team game map pool. Enclosed as well, I think, to give a version of Hideout, which is a bit more open and offers you more chances to be aggressive or play differently than Hideout and Arena usually play out. So for me, Enclosed was a natural choice as well. Four Lakes seems like a very popular choice. I think Four Lakes as well is an amazing team game map. Again, I keep repeating myself, but the strategic variety you get and the options you have with Four Lakes is also... There's so many options to play, right? So I think it's a no-brainer. Haboob, again, I haven't seen much Haboob in team games. I have played it once, I think, in a team game event. Or twice. And it was a wild game. Because again, you start so close to each other, resources are exposed, and you just fight pretty much from the get-go in early few lanes. So again, open, very aggressive map. Could be an interesting one for team games. For some reason, Kawasan does not seem popular in team games. I thought Kawasan would be way more popular in team games than in 1-1 even, because of all the pawns between each player and the bears in the middle. But yeah, apparently not. But again, I think Kawasan would be cool to explore as a team game map. Lowland as well. Again, a little bit of a different approach to Arabia in my opinion. But still, you could see these team pushes along the sides. Or just full brutal force power straight through the middle. And then Team Islands. I didn't choose Team Islands. I actually chose, or told them, Enemy Islands / Enemy Archipelago. Now, they tested the map a couple of times, and apparently it's not really ready for ranked, because there's probably too much imbalance there in terms of like fair spawns and such. So I get that. That's fine. Team Islands, anyway, it's like a go-to team game map for people that like water play and land play. So I don't mind that. But I was suggesting to go wild with Enemy Islands or Enemy Archipelago. For those who aren't aware, that essentially means that you and an enemy will start on the same island 4 times if it's a 4v4, right? So it's essentially a 1v1 4 times, but also a team game, right? So maybe a bit too wild. Team modes. This is a map I wasn't aware of before, but like I looked at it and I was like, this could be an interesting one, but I felt like people probably won't pick this map. But I was like, let's just give the option, because this is one of the more crazy maps where you can see as well on the screenshot here, there are shallows between your starting spots and the middle. So essentially the teams have to move to the middle in order to expand to the outside. You could always build a dock and a transport as well to leave from the behind. But yeah, I was like thinking this could add a lot of different tricky ways to play. But yeah, I feel like Team Modes is not one of those maps that probably will be voted in the end. And then last map was Yucatan. Classic team game map in Age of Empires. again, you can play this a million different ways. You can even play water here. So Yucatan is more probably lean towards later game, which again, it's not a problem that the maps, some maps are like that, right? So yeah, this is essentially the map pool I ended up picking. Like we were supposed to do it together, but they ended up keeping all my maps. So I'm obviously quite happy with that. And yeah, I did ask them about tournament maps. Is there going to be a possibility for more tournament maps to become an option down the road? They couldn't really confirm or deny anything. It was like, we will have to look into it, right? So maybe down the road we'll see more options in terms of maps we can vote for. But yeah, also, I mean, this is not going to become a recurring theme where I'm picking the map pool, by the way. This was just like, I obviously made a video where I talked about the map pool and how I wish it was a bit different. And then they shortly after approached me and gave me pretty much in the end the option to pick the maps and the map options that you can vote for. So I thought that was a really cool move by them. I'm happy to have been asked. And I know as well, when I put myself in this position, not everyone has the same opinion as me, right? So I'm going to get a lot of people that are not happy with my map picks as well. Completely understandable as well. But either way, if you have your opinions, or if there was any map you thought definitely shouldn't be here, or any maps you thought should have been there, again, keep in mind, the maps had to be in the game, pretty much, to be able to be chosen. So, yeah, let me know in the comment section what you think. Also, I want to just say a huge shout out to Forgotten Empires. Keep in mind, Forgotten Empires were formed by community members. It started off as a community group making a patch for Age of Empires unofficially. Eventually Microsoft acquired them and they became a part of Microsoft, right? So they know what it's like to be on our side of the fence, where we are players and community members that want to see things improve, right? And they listen. Keep in mind, again, we have a direct portal for the top players and a lot of community members in Discord where we can talk with them directly and give feedback on changes they're planning to bring to the game and balance, civ balance and such. So all the time people complain about pathing, this, that, and this. Of course, they are aware of this and they constantly try to improve things. And again, I think the game has come such a long way since the release as well. And I think we're still in the best time of Age of Empires. And they are a big part of that. But they do listen, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. I can't imagine any other, or many other games where players and community members have such a close connection and attachment to the developers of its game. I think we're also very fortunate there. Now, hopefully they can fix pathing and such in the future, but you know, I still think they deserve massive praise, despite... I know usually the negative parts will be louder than the positives, but in my opinion, they're doing a fantastic job nonetheless. So yeah, that's my map pool that I chose. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And yeah, hopefully majority of people will be happy with the map pool after this weekend. If I understand correctly, the map pool will be live, yeah, 6th of September. So hopefully you will have some good maps to play then. Bye-bye.